This was the most highly requested video when I asked what video you wanted to see over on Instagram. So if you're not following both of us over there, you should definitely go do that. And if you don't already know who this is, I don't know if you're under a YouTube sustainability rock, but this is Immy from Sustainably Vegan. Hi. And you guys really wanted to know our different experiences living sustainably in the US versus the UK. I mean, the US and the UK are vastly different in terms of, every single category you could ever see. We're nowhere near representative of all of the cultures and income brackets and like diversity in each of the places that we live. So as we go through this video, since it's what you wanted to see, keep that in mind, that everything we're speaking to is from our individual experiences.
Yeah. Obviously you guys will get that anyway, but we just wanted to make it very clear that,
Yeah, and it's gonna be hard to not say, in my experience, every time we go through every single thing, but please just keep that in mind. And I'd love to hear if you agree or disagree with any of our perspectives and what your lived experience is in the comments, so let us know. Because Texas in and of itself is massive, as Immy always says, it could be its own country. And I've never even been to the UK.
And I've only lived in London and the southeast of England, which is very different. Yeah. Even Wales, Scotland, Ireland, very different.
Right. Enough with the disclaimers. Here we go. First thing we looked up and compared whenever we started talking about this was the carbon footprint per capita difference between the US, the EU, and the UK. So as you can imagine, through those three options, who do you think is number one? That would be the US, of course. According to the data, the average US citizen has a 16 metric tons carbon footprint per year, which is massive, the highest per capita carbon footprint in the world, wouldn't you know? Then the UK actually came in second at 10 tons. I think you said that you thought that was pretty high.
Even though I thought it was 10, I still thought that was pretty high because we're such a tiny country, but then we love to get our mitts on everything, don't we? So not that surprising, I suppose.
Yeah, and then the EU takes into consideration, obviously, vastly different countries, which leads them to having the smallest at 6.6.
But that still has nothing on the carbon footprint of the global south, for example. All of ours is still ridiculously high.
I think the baseline, I think it's safe to say, that the baseline of the way culture is here versus in the UK is very much more wasteful, I guess the only way to say it. In my family versus Immy's, we've realized that sustainability doesn't factor into purchasing decisions whatsoever for the people in my life, whereas I think it's a little bit different for you.
Yeah, even though my parents clearly live in a big house, that's definitely not insulated to the best that it should be, which is a problem with a lot of British houses. So we're basically paying to heat the outside, which is very inefficient. They do a lot of things that are just kind of make sense. Instead of shopping at the supermarket all the time, they go to a local farm. They love to support local farms. Yeah. And they also support a local farm that is biodynamic, so they care about all of that kind of stuff. And also I asked my dad the other day when the last long haul flight he'd been on, he literally was the 80s, so they don't fly almost ever, and they never go on long haul flights, and they just don't waste things because they think that it's just a waste of money. I think that's more of their thing than sustainability, but they're definitely quite conscious of that as well.
Yeah, and I think that level of conscious, and also just that farms are available, and that's kind of more normalized from the way we've had discussions than it is for my family. If you asked my family where their food comes from, they couldn't tell you, and they couldn't care any less. And it's just not a factor in their purchasing decisions. And cat Paco.
Obviously though, when you live more rurally, even in the UK, there are places like Cornwall, for example, which is super rural, that transport is, I think there are still buses and things like that, but you predominantly need a car. And I think that's what drives the footprint up of people, especially in Texas, just from being here, seeing the kind of sprawl that you were talking about. Yeah, what do you think about transportation here?
Yeah, I think that's the next like big section is like transportation and the layout of cities, like the way things are constructed here. Speaking about New York City versus like suburbia San Antonio are very different. So you can't categorize the US in that way. But definitely in Texas specifically, we have a big problem with urban sprawl. If you're not unfamiliar with that, I think a lot of people are unfamiliar with that if they're not from a place like Texas and they don't understand why we need a car to function here. And we have the very like idyllic white picket fence, your own yard and land and all these things, the McMansions as we call it, that we just keep spreading and spreading and spreading, and we have the room to do it. Even if we had public transportation, there's no way, I mean, we do have it, but it's just so, there's no way to make it efficient because we didn't build cities around that. Instead, we built our cities around the ability to have automobiles.
So my partner lives in DC and I've just come from there to visit here. And even there, even though the metro is really good, it just kind of depends where you are. For example, the gym that my partner goes to would be impossible to get there by public transport, which is quite bizarre considering I think how well connected the metro is. And even when you just get out of the city, it's literally as though the transit stops and you can only get around easily when you're in the city, and then as soon as you want to get out of it, you just need a car.
But I'm saying in London, you can get other places outside of the city with public transportation?
Oh yeah, really easily.
Oh.
I mean, I can get to my parents' house in 58 minutes from London, 2 trains.
Yeah, okay, well I was gonna tell you, so when we were doing trains up in the Northeast, because we basically flew to DC and then took a train all the way up to Maine. So I looked up a train from here to Dallas, where my brother-in-law lives, and it's a 4-hour drive. There's only one train that leaves from San Antonio to Dallas a day. It leaves at 5 a.m. And it would have taken 19 hours.
Wow, why?
It's a train. It makes no sense. It's just not realistic for people who have cars, which if you live in Texas, you do. And the cities were built that way. So it's very unfortunate. Stress for me.
Yeah, well, it's like when me and Jess went to COP26. We got the train from King's Cross in London all the way, which Jess didn't realize was a real place. She thought it was just in Harry Potter. Anyway, from London King's Cross to Edinburgh, which should have been like, I don't know, 8-hour drive or something. It took like 4.5 hours on the train.
That's incredible.
And you can sleep, you can read your book, like you can chat. It's so much.
I'm so jealous. I am so jealous.
And actually, if you book your ticket through like the train line, for example, they tell you how much carbon emissions, whatever you're saving by getting the train.
Yeah.
Which just makes you kind of feel good. They're also like, when we can't talk about these things, it kind of also comes back to the fact that we are still a tiny island compared to the sheer size of the US.
Right.
Like everything that we do, the US seems to just do on a much grander scale.
Yeah.
Like how far you have to drive, how much you waste, how much you consume, all of those
Because it's
things.
huge.
Because it's huge, yeah.
Well, that leads us into this one, which is many people asked about thrift stores, which Emmy can definitely speak to because I've, again, never been to the UK. It's on my list because I need to return the favor of Emmy visiting me.
Yeah. When I go thrifting, I kind of go with an idea of something I want, but I also go with like the idea that I probably won't find it. But I mean, thrifting has become so trendy and popular in the UK now that it's driving the prices up, so it's making it unaffordable for those who actually rely on secondhand stores. Right. And vintage is becoming really like cool, and the prices are just kind of outrageous. But yeah, I noticed when I came to the US, going to the thrift, one, I couldn't believe how big they are. Mm-hmm. It's like going into a monster supermarket. I remember the first time I went into like H-E-B we went to, and Central Market, or like a Maya. I went in and I just thought I could get lost in here. Like it's wild. That's the same with the thrift stores.
Yeah, they're just much bigger, like have more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks to the baseline that we're talking about. Like people in the US are perfectly fine with buying and getting rid of. Yeah, really throwaway culture is very normal here, and a lot of that is not because of anything other than wealth freedom. What's the word? Disposable income. They have the ability to spend, and so they do.
Yeah, I mean, we still have the problem of charity shops and stuff not being able to resell some stuff that we sell, but just not on the same scale. Like, I can imagine there's a lot of textile waste in the US from thrift stores where people donate stuff that can't be resold.
Right.
Yeah.
This was also very highly requested. What swaps one of us loves that the other of us hates? And I don't think there's a lot, but through this experience being with each other for like 5 days now, and also the other times we've hung out, we have discussed a few different things that Amy loves that Shelby doesn't love. First up, menstrual cup. Disclaimer, before you freaking come for me, I don't hate the menstrual cup. I've just never used one because I've also never used a tampon.
I just feel like there is enough shit and pressure and taboo around periods that, like, if you don't want to use something and you don't want to shove something up there, don't come for me for it.
Yeah,
but also with menstrual cups, there's so many things you have to take into consideration and so much you have to experiment with, and like the softness or the hardness of the material.
And like the length and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were all so different, but apparently they very much are. Because Madison tried the Diva Cup, that's the first one she ever tried, and she loved it. And we never had to try a different one. But now I'm realizing, yeah, like the size and the shape and the tilt of your cervix can really change.
Yeah, and just like the length of your like vaginal canal, like some people can't have any stem whatsoever, and some people have to have a much like more squat cup. I love the menstrual cup, but that's because it works for me.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work for you, I would hate it. I would hate it so much if it did. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There are other options out there.
Yeah. Okay. Wax wraps.
I just did a video about it and I made Shelby talk about them, and Shelby is not a fan.
They're just not for me. I don't think anything's particularly wrong with them. I just have have had them for years, and I never ever reach for them.
I just think it's so smart that you can have this thing, you can melt it with your hands, and then it perfectly fit to whatever you need.
And then hair products. So we're gonna get into this one. The only hair product that touches my hair, aside from maybe occasionally using my sister's dry shampoo, is shampoo. And it's not because I hate all these other products that Emmy's gonna talk about. I just am like lazy, for one, and number two, lucky that I just have very like
low maintenance hair.
Yeah, exactly.
You should see what this hair looks like when I have not put things in it. And this is like day 4 as well, so you're not getting the best of these curls. I'm a big fan of shampoo bars. Do you use shampoo bars?
When I travel, yeah.
When you travel. I really am a big fan of Etique, because they have like curliosity bars, which are really good for curly hair. They also have them for other people. I also really like Rhyme and Reason. I usually use a shampoo bar, but since coming to the US, I forgot to bring my Etique bar with me, and you can get Rhyme and Reason here, which is so good.
Yeah.
I really like their shampoo and conditioner and their deep conditioner. I find their deep conditioner is really good for actually holding the curl shape.
Right. I feel like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's like a leave-in one. So I do like shampoo, conditioner, and then afterwards I'll do the leave-in conditioner, and then I'll use an Only Curls curl cream, which is yeah, so people with low maintenance hair have a much easier time. I imagine the curlier and coilier hair you have, like the harder it is.
But that's what I was saying. None of these things that we went through are things that I like just hate that you love, but just like I don't use them. So I thought that we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to know what brands also that you like that I don't like, or vice versa. But I don't think that there are a lot of brands that I like and you don't like. I think the conversation is also interesting. Things you can get in the US versus things you can't get in the UK, or vice versa. Stasher.
Yes.
You can buy them?
Yeah, because I've got those.
Okay, cool.
Wait, did I buy them in the UK? I think I bought them in the US.
Maybe they're not there.
I got mine from Mom's Organic.
Okay, so you did buy them here.
But
please excuse the chicken noises.
let's move on, because I don't know.
Native.
I don't think you can get that, because I've never seen it.
No.
I've never seen it.
Damn. Brush with bamboo?
I wouldn't know, because I friggin' hate those brushes. Yeah, I hate them. I hate all zero waste tooth, everything. I hate them.
We could have put that in the other section.
Well, here it is.
Drama. Okay, and then Thinx, I think you can get those.
You can get them, but you have to be careful about the import taxes.
That's annoying.
Yeah.
Who gives a crap? I think you guys can get.
Yeah, we can definitely get those. I got that over Christmas.
I think they're worldwide, actually. Who gives a crap? And then I wrote down plain. Do you know about them at all? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Your turn.
Yeah, well, I use Ecosia, which you can definitely get in the US because I saw that in Mom's Organic the other day.
Yeah.
You don't even use those, do you?
No, but I put them in a video where I tested a bunch of shampoos.
But they have all kinds of stuff now. I really like them. I'm a big fan of them.
You can get those in the US.
Also, I actually told Shelby about this the other day. I really wanted to get the makeup brand THRIFT.
I think I know you can get it here, right? Because Lauren has it.
You can only get it here. Like me and my friend Amy really wanted to get it, but you can't, it doesn't even ship to the UK.
Oh, you're gonna get it here so you can give some to her?
Actually, Lauren has already sent her some. But I bought some and had it sent to my partner's place while I was here because I just was so desperate to try it because it's all refillable zero waste makeup. Like that's one thing I think that the US does really well is zero waste makeup. I've tried some French zero waste makeup that was bad. Wild deodorant?
Yes, you can get that here.
Can you? Obviously, the only other thing I use all the time is like a clean canteen. It's not really a product, but that's like an American thing, isn't it?
Is it from? Yeah, it must be from the US.
I don't really use that many products.
It's fine. We just thought we would talk about the brands that we use and like if you can and can't get them, you can let us know what you think in the comments. And a lot of people wanted to know differences between gardening because we definitely live in different zones and like just different habits that we have in general. But in San Antonio, something that we have to worry about that I think you probably don't is things drying out. If I leave for like a weekend and I don't have any sort of watering set up, something's going to die.
Well, we don't even have zones.
You don't?
Well, because
you're all one zone. Is that what you're saying?
We don't have zones. No zones.
Oh, the zones are USDA zones.
Yeah, because I mean, our climate is very different in the north and the south, but it's not like Texas and New York, you know?
Right. I think we also talked a little bit about sourcing local things. So things like soil, compost, and seeds. Amy was telling me about this cute little farm that gives soil in reusable bags. And I was like, if I want to get soil without a bag, I got to get like a cubic yard delivered to my house and go rent a wheelbarrow and move it all myself.
Yeah, see, we got a ton of topsoil just brought from the local farm, which is like 20 minutes down the road. And they brought it in a bag that they then just take away afterwards, after we're done with it.
Also seeds, I don't know where you source your seeds from. There are like 2 local seed companies that I like to support here, but then the other ones I have are just like from Botanical Interests, I think is what the brand is called.
We always get local things from the local nursery and stuff like that,
See?
Yeah.
So that's also what I find interesting. Like if you remember the gardening place that we went to the other day? If you went to a place like that back home, most things there would be sourced locally. Yeah, that's not what's happening here. Yeah.
I've only been able to garden really since being at my parents' house because they have a huge garden. But back in the flat in London, I'd have like a few pots on the windowsill, which was really nice, but it's not the same as, I mean, you've got a whole center out there with different stuff. And you've got chickens.
That's something else I wanted to say, the chickens and like the things I'm allowed to have. In the US, you have to be very conscious when buying a house that you don't buy in one with an HOA, Homeowners Association. If you aren't from the US, you might not know what those are, but they're basically neighborhood boards that tell you what you can and can't do with your own property. Personally, when we were looking for a home specifically, we wanted one that did not have an HOA because I don't want to be told what to do with my property. But I think that can also have a big impact on if people are growing things for themselves or if they are able to have things like this.
Maybe we don't have HOAs, but they're definitely, you're not allowed to paint your house like a wild color without getting permission and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I don't think you have to keep your lawn perfect. I think you can do the stuff you want to do. Actually, it's in a kind of reverse way. The only thing you can't really do is cut down trees in your property that are over a certain amount of years old.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, like you could get fined like £10,000 just for cutting down a tree by accident. Well, not by accident, but like, well, if you cut it down by accident.
Without permission.
Without permission, yeah.
Damn. As far as habits go, if you watch mine and Emmy's channels, you're gonna know both of these things about us, but we're very different in 2 ways. One is cooking, and the other is reading. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that because cooking for each of us is very different. Like, I feel like I cook for necessity, whereas I feel like Amy cooks for like fun and pleasure and those sort of things.
I'd say before the whole crisis we've just lived through, I'd say that I very much was the same. I hated cooking, but that's, I think, because I ate so much boring vegan food that I didn't bother to try and make interesting because I just was very lazy about it.
Yeah.
And then during the last 2 years, I made a concerted effort to try and learn how to cook better. And then I just fell in love with it. And like ever since being here, I've been cooking them lots of different things.
Yeah, it's been amazing having, Madison goes, it's wonderful having a live-in chef.
She's the pickiest eater I have ever experienced.
Stop it. I've eaten everything you've made.
She has tried, she's been a very good sport and tried everything, but
textures are just weird to me.
And that makes it harder if you don't like cooking and you don't like to cook things in advance and you can't keep the textures the same. Like that I can understand, whereas I will eat anything.
And reading. If you watch mine and me and Emmy and me, you know that one of us loves to read and the other one doesn't like to read at all. Within the new year, I'm trying to read more, but I listen to audiobooks, not as much as you read, but I do listen to audiobooks. And I think that's like one of the habits that each of us has that maybe doesn't seem particularly sustainable, but because knowledge is really powerful and having different perspectives in this movement and each of us developing like our perspective and knowledge, it is something.
But it also is so well-rounded in the things that you learn. Like you grow in empathy for other people when you read a lot about the way that other people experience life. And you know, if I want to understand from someone else's experience the way that they move through the world, reading a book, even if it's fiction, I find really helps me to connect to why they do the things that they do.
Yeah, that's what I mean is I feel like the more older I get, the more I learn, even if it's not through books, my perspective changes and my approach to activism, if you will, changes, or just education and communication is all based on like our lived experience. And the more you read, it's kind of like a shorter way to get other people's lived experiences, which is really important as a human, but also like in any movement. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, all of the responses to my Instagram questionnaire about what videos to make said you just wanted to hear us talk, and I think that we just gave you a lot of that. So hopefully you liked it. Give this video a thumbs up. I'll try to remember to link anything that we talked about in the description with Emmy's channel, because if you're not subscribed, you should do that. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.